So, hi everyone.
Hi, everyone. Hi, Juan. So good to see you again.
Hi, Vanessa. So good to see you too. I'm going to
Oh,
change
now you can really
the,
see me.
yeah, I have my Brand Innovators background, so I will try to, no, I think it's okay like this.
I think it's okay like that too. Actually, I think your brand innovators background matches, or your current background matches what we see in brand innovators. Okay, so really great to have you on board. Brand Innovators, thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to share my voice yet again on behalf of the Branded Entertainment Network, Ben Group. I'm so excited to be here talking with Juan because we've got some stuff to uncover coming out of, a great Black History Month and tail end of Women's History Month. I'm so excited to talk with a colleague. I consider you a colleague because we both are in this, quest for providing more culture in our workspace, in our environment, and how we share that with others through marketing. So, that kind of leads me to my first question, because I do believe that people often ask, how does one even get a start in an industry like this? Yes, I understand that you work marketing for a beverage company, but how does one actually, get started in the beverage marketing industry?
To be honest, Vanessa, like I started my career in massive consumption. I've always been working in these big, massive companies. I started in Procter & Gamble in marketing when I ended up the university. Then I went to Nestle. After Nestle, I started in Telefónica, telecommunications company here, very strong in Latin America. And after that, I wanted to get back to this type of companies in which you are able to touch lives of the consumers, every day. I realized that, the impact that these types of companies can make in culture and
Yeah.
into bringing, a better quality of life to the people is strong. So I had the opportunity to start working for SAP Miller at that time. And maybe 4 years ago, when the merge between Anheuser Busch and SAP Miller happened, I managed to stay in the company with a new culture, new people, a new purpose that was very related with like improving the quality of life of people. So for me, that was the path, and it's been amazing. This, I think, 12 years of career.
I love that you said that, because it's almost like we unconsciously seek out those companies. Those of us who can consider ourselves empaths or are more concerned with our communities overall tend to kind of seek out the companies that do address this. So I'm going to ask you a question that we didn't really talk about, but I think you're well prepared to answer this just based on your background. Tell me some of the companies that you see are actually doing this right, that are actually tapping into the community to make a change, a positive change. What are some of the companies that you see now that are doing this right?
Uh, First of all, for sure, Anheuser Busch. I love the company that I work in. Seeing the processes and the intention that we have from inside is huge, because as we talk in another meeting, this is a lot of work. It's not like you wake up one day and you say, like, I want to be an inclusive and diverse company. No, you have to have a plan, and there's a path to walk. So for me, Anheuser Busch has the processes and the intention and the people to make this happen, step by step. I've seen very important campaigns, platforms, and actions from PepsiCo, for example, with specific communities. Um, Also, when I see the things that Procter & Gamble does in the States, specifically, I'm amazed every year. You can see that consistency is a part of all of these companies that are doing something good and something, actionable for this. I don't want to say problematic, but in this territory of diversity and inclusion.
Yeah, Procter and Gamble has always been one of my favorite brands to work with for that very specific reason. Early in my career, or earlier in my career, I've had the opportunity of working some really great programs with them that actually opened me up to understanding that there is the possibility of being able to attach your passion with your purpose. So it's a brand that I've really embraced over the years. Now, you mentioned Anheuser-Busch, where you currently work. The Anheuser-Busch, to me, has been an early, how would you say, change agent. As a matter of fact, if I remember correctly, back in the mid 90s, 1995, I believe to be specific, they actually ran one of their first LGBT print ads that talked about, I think the messaging was labels belong on beer, not on people. So a message like that to come out in 1995 is so prolific and speaks in volumes about how a brand wants to address diversity. Share with me how throughout the years Anheuser-Busch has really worked to address diversity internally. Share some of your knowledge, please.
For sure, I think that specific case was bold. That let you see that specific brands in specific countries, have very strong point of view regarding this type of topic. I think that's important from a company that has so many brands in so many company in so many countries. The journey for Anheuser-Busch, for me, it's been, from an outside perspective, very targeted in specific communities with brands that can talk to those communities. Every brand cannot talk to every community. That wouldn't be consistent, and we wouldn't be able to have a behavioral change in the lives of our consumers. However, from a more internal perspective, Anheuser-Busch not only has these platforms that helps consumers, but also has these specific programs, within the whole company that helps to change or keep traveling this journey of diversity and inclusion. For example, we now in the company we have this employee resource group in which people from the company starts to get together to start working for these topics. Myself, I lead the LGBTQ plus ERG in the Middle America zone. So as it is a huge company, we try to separate by zones, by specific communities, by people that want to work with it, and we start doing the job that I think is the hardest part.
Yeah, I think it's critically important to address the diversity internally before you can even actually start to touch diversity externally, because it's not only diversity, equity, and inclusion, it's really about culture and how understanding different cultures can help to shape the imagination and can help to really bring out the most creativity, particularly in the areas that you and I work with in marketing and strategy, when you're able to tap into different voices, right? And really hear opinions that are new and that are different. It really helps to move some of the conversations along and ensure that you are actually speaking to the masses, whether that be a specific demographic target or mass appeal in general, the general market. I think, by listening to all of those diverse voices, that's where you get the ability to kind of move conversations and topics forward. And I think that,
Build,
go ahead.
sorry, Vanessa, and just to build on top of that, I think that the change happened in this type of companies when you realize that diversity, equity, and inclusion, are very related with business results. When you are in a meeting and you see different point of views, and how that started just like an opinion that anybody else in the table saw, and ended up like on a very actionable big platform or campaign or new business plan, you just realize it that this is important. Like this
Yeah.
brings results in a very positive way.
Yeah. I mean, when you really think about it, the whole point is that, we may be representative of brands, whatever job function that we have, but we're also representative of consumers, right? And so we tend to really connect some of our marketing prowess to our own consumer behavior. So speaking on that, I know this is important to me, but I'd love to hear your thoughts on, brands that have a voice, brands that speak out. Do you think that it's really important to the consumer for them to connect to a brand who has an opinion about something?
Yes, for sure. I think we already passed this era in which just talking about the functional benefits of the product were important. I think we have a lot of products right now that in some way they offer the same benefit. Like
Yeah.
functionally, it had to be like a new amazing technology to bring us a very different functional benefit. However, I think consumers, and no, I don't think, I'm sure consumers that they are expecting from the brands to start a change in their environment. Consumers give us their money. We, for sure, we give them our product and our functional benefit. However, we have the responsibility to start shaping in a more positive way their lives. And consumers are smart, they're intelligent, they know what are we up to. They know if we start doing this, for example, inclusive or diverse campaign, they know if we are being true about that, if we are being actually intentional about that, if we want to see a change about that, of if it's just talking. And consumers respond directly. You can see that for sure in our on the tests that we do, but also on sales.
Yeah, I mean, we see it on the in terms of what we do at the Ben Group in on both sides, not necessarily just on the consumer side, but also on the content creator side. We do see that brands that connect to certain content creators very early on, right? When they're just beginning their or at the early part of their content creation journey, the brands that support those content creators actually seem to build loyalists, right? These content creators have a sense of loyalty to these brands, which helps the brand also tell their story in a very significant way, because it's coming not just from the placement of the product itself, but also from the context, from the messaging that is shared. Something I actually want to see more of. I actually want to see more brands share stories about what they're doing, not just as a product, but what they're doing as a brand to connect to communities. So with that in mind, I would love to hear a little bit more about what Anheuser Busch is doing externally in various communities to address diversity, equity, and inclusion.
For sure, and I totally agree with you, Vanessa. It's not only the things that we do with our consumers, but also with our stakeholders. For example, and related with your question, we have specifically in this zone, in Middle America zone, we have some programs that work with farmers. That for sure they have their farms, but they are not sure sometimes if they have to make this seeding small or big, because they are not going to be sure if people is going to buy their crops. However, we managed to have these programs in which we assure them that we're going to buy their crops for making our beers, and those beers are going to be sold in these specific regions, the regions that the farmers are in. So, like that's like a virtuous circle that is not directly related with, for example, diversity, but is how we can bring these positive topics, this type of sustainable businesses to other stakeholders that helps the communities.
Mm-hmm. No, you mentioned a really good point about sustainable business, because I do believe as we're talking about DE&I, there are multiple facets. I talk often about intersectionality, right? Because it's not just about color, it's not just about gender, it's not just about LGBTQ. There's also like some, there's also some, sorry, I'm seeing that there's a question, great. There's also some, focus around socioeconomic backgrounds and how that affects people. And you can't look at socioeconomic backgrounds without thinking about sustainability and how each community actually participates in how we make the world more sustainable. So that is really, I think that's really key to this discussion, that sustainability is kind of, included in the conversation as we're talking about DE&I. So I love what Anheuser Busch is doing. Absolutely aligned. Love the mission there, and really working with these communities. I'd love to hear from you a little bit more about how you actually tapped into, being able to connect your passion and your purpose and your work. Did you have anyone in your career that was like a mentor to you that kind of helped to feed that passion that you have?
Yes, Vanessa. I have like two people that I look up to. I had this boss like a couple of years ago. He's Peruvian as me. He works in the company. He still works in the company in New York, and he taught me how this thing that we were talking about just a few minutes ago. In terms of how purpose, not only the diversity and inclusion, but purpose can bring business results and also can connect you with the things that you love. So yeah, for sure, we have priorities and we have KPIs and objectives to accomplish. However, you can put some of yourself on those so you can still be working, but also, fulfill yourself as a worker for the company emotionally. I think that's important, and not, leaving aside the brand strategy or the business strategy. He taught me that, and the other person is from the NAVEP community. Myself in ABI work for the non-alcoholic beverages. We're a beer company, but we have some different types of businesses. She works also in the NAVEP community, Anna. She is my boss. She also works for Global Headquarters. She's a woman so open and so intentional and so passionate about, the positiveness that diversity and inclusion brings to the company, and so worried about for the people to feel comfortable in the workplace. Mm-hmm. That is really inspiring for you to do the same for other people that works with you. So I think, those are my mentors right now, from one more from a business perspective and the other one from an emotional perspective, but I think are equally important in this type of businesses.
I love that. And I love the fact that you shared that you're Peruvian, and that is a part of your culture. For me, I'm West Indian, I'm Jamaican. That is a part of my culture. That is something that plays a part in the things that I do, in addressing some of the challenges that we see in various Caribbean communities, and definitely in the Black community. So speaking of communities, what role does local community culture play in your marketing and your brand strategy?
A strong role, the strongest role, right now I'm working in Colombia, and as we as Latin people have, similarities, within the countries. However, we're very different at the same time. And right now we are working with a beautiful brand. It's called Pony Malta, and the target of Pony Malta is kids and teenagers. So it's very specific. It's very different. It's very different also for the company. We're a beer company. We, 90% of our business targets adults. However, being inside that culture, even if you are not part of that community or that niche or that consumer target, it's so important because, again, consumers can tell when you are being true to the brand, true to the campaign you're doing, the platform that you are trying to build. So I think it's so important for you to be inside the culture of your target. For me, for example, it's like, how are kids and teenagers now? Like, it's a different world. They think totally different that we did when we were teenagers. And it's a challenge. It's a side job, for sure. You have to do your business plan, your marketing plan, your brand plan. Everything's good. But you also have to spend a lot of time understanding, learning. It's an infinite journey of learning. And sometimes we try to go to the investigation agency and to the other partner. But I think the best part is to go outside, talk to the people, because your experience is as important. Your experience as marketeer is
Right.
as important as the experience that the investigation agency is having.
Let's talk about that a little bit more. I know you mentioned that you're in the non-alcoholic beverage side of the business, and we just talked a little bit about the youth. And I am so inspired by the youth of today. I really feel as though they're so tapped in. They get it. Before we, I'm not going to say that we're older, but we're a little bit more mature, right? It takes us a little. We process things a little bit differently than these young folks do. What kind of trends are you seeing, and how, like, what kind of mechanisms are you using to tap into that youthful consumer? How are you talking to them?
I think in this era, Vanessa, it's so important to have a direct channel of communication with your consumers. Right now, we are very like, one of our priorities is how we not only have the data of our consumers, but also how we connect with them and we activate that data, in a very true way. How we can be friends for them, how can we partners for them. So for me right now, for sure, we have partners that are helping us to understand how they change every day, because they change every day. But also we have this specific platform in which we have prices for them if they keep in touch with us. And also we try to motivate them to achieve a better grades in school. So it's, again, a purposeful platform that allows them to have these prices that they love, but also for us to have the information that they can give us, like in a true way.
Yeah. This generation that's coming up now, they are absolutely truth seekers, and they can spot BS a mile away, which is the reason why it's so important for brands to be as authentic as possible when they're speaking to them. It's like, you've got to understand their voice and speak to them in their voice for them to actually, wrap their arms around you, which, it's funny because I feel like when you look at marketing, again, it goes back to looking at DE&I from a holistic perspective. Not only is it all of those segments that I mentioned to you, including socioeconomic, but there's also generational segments that there are, that you've got to consider when you're marketing to different people. Speaking of that, we just got a question that popped up that speaks to this. How does Anheuser Busch approach product safety and product experience in marketing to young people and adults in today's marketplace?
In terms of the specific beer category, because like from the brands that we as a team manage right now, we are non-alcoholic, so we are able for sure to target teens and kids. Sometimes some of the gates that we have is for the parents to have the authorization, for the kids to have the authorization of the parents, so we can connect with them.
Mhm.
But we are very how can I say this, we're very strict with the type of communication that we do. What is easier right now, as most of the investment is going year by year to digital platforms,
Mhm.
that enables us to be more specific with the targeting that we do. So for sure we cannot target a youngster with a beer ad, and we can manage that from digital. Yeah, I think that's I don't know if I made myself clear. Yeah.
No, I totally got that. One of the other things that I've come across recently that really impressed me about Anheuser-Busch is how they have connected with women in the marketplace. Something I found really interesting. I read that nearly half of the U.S. breweries and a quarter of them, quarter of the breweries in Argentina, China, and Europe are led by female brewmasters, which I think I was sharing with you yesterday. I found that so intriguing, not because of my own personal passions of wanting to learn how to make kombucha, but because I just think that's such like an area that you never, and it's, we have to be a little bit more open. Anyone can play in any space. A woman can do anything that she wants to do. So why not be a head brewmaster? I love the way how AB has really wrapped their arms around that and embraced that. Can you share with me a little bit more about how they really focused on the role of women in leadership at Anheuser-Busch?
For sure, I think that's an excellent example, Vanessa. It's an example of walking the talk. So we always talk about we have to have more women in the mancom in higher positions. We know as a society globally that we have a very long path to walk in that direction. But this type of news or this type of actions that we do internally inspired us to keep walking that talk. Internally, we have a lot of programs, not only with brands, but also, with the people that are inside the company, in which we try to start fighting with those crystal ceilings. We try to understand what are the situation of women inside the company, how we can try to balance, these other things that women have in terms of difficulties or barriers that society puts, so that inside the company they have other tools to try to manage that. So it's very interesting, and it's very inspirational to be inside the company and see all that effort, in terms of resources, people, capabilities put on those topics to see a change that is for sure real.
Yeah, that it's definitely something that matters. And I think as we continue to grow in our careers, that is something that we really look to. How are the companies that we're working with addressing DE&I? Is it just something that, they get on their soapbox and talk about, but there's no action behind it? Or is it something that is a part of their DNA, something that they're really focused on? Another call out for me in terms of the AB family and how, they've really addressed DE&I. I noted that they've started this path, this walk, this journey back in 2005 was when they instituted their first ethnic marketing group at AB, which to me, I think that was a time when people were just beginning to understand the value of what I call the majority dollar, not the minority dollar, right? And so obviously, as you are marketing to these different diversity, the majority diversity segments, right? you've got to have different understandings and different people who speak different languages. And I mean that both in a real literal sense and the metaphorical sense, right? So they've really been leaders in this space. And it's made a difference to you. It's made a difference to me in terms of like, you know, working for other brands that are the same. How do you use your work that you do at AB to really answer your core passions?
No, Vanessa, for me, very special, very important to work in ABI because as a brand director, I have the opportunity to address the things for this specific target that for me may be a problem before when I was a teenager. This is a specific example, but right now, bullying for teenagers, it's been, a very big problem. As a brand, have the opportunity with our resources to try to address that problem, in a real way. So the brands are very flexible, and the brands have the power to start making behavioral changes. So yes, I think that that's very interesting.
Yeah. I'm glad, I'm happy for you that you were able to find your sweet spot, as I have been able to find mine at Ben. And I think that there are a lot of young people, as I mentioned, that are looking for that. So not only are they looking for brands to talk to them in their language, young people that, or people who are just starting their careers in entertainment, in advertising, and brand work, they're also looking for brands who answer, their core passions and tap into their core passions. For me, my road was long. I had to go through, what do they say? You got to kiss a lot of frogs before you meet your prince. I've been lucky because I've been around, what's the best way to say this? Like some of the best brands. I've worked for some of the best brands in my career. And right now for what I consider one of the best, because of how they answer the call for DE&I and how they answer the call for us to really tap into our core passions. So I know what kind of advice I would give. I want to hear what kind of advice you would give someone who wants to walk in your path. Like, it didn't happen overnight for you. What were some of the pivotal moments, and what kind of advice would you share with someone who wants to have a similar career as yours, where you're able to make a difference and work for an established brand?
I think, Vanessa, is the first advice that I would give is to be authentic, to be actually true to yourself, and to see what you like and what you don't like, and for sure to try everything. I started my career in this same type of companies as ABI, Display, for example. Then I wanted to try a little bit more telecommunications, technology, and then I came back. So, and when you find a place in which you can be yourself, for me, that's the grace.
Right. Yeah, no, that's really it. Okay, so as we're starting to wrap this up, we are in some challenging times right now. The last few years for many of us has been dealing with the pandemic. We've seen that a lot of people use that time as a time of reflection. And, it's brought about a lot of conversation around empathy and how we connect with each other, and how we can lead using empathy, right? So, and now we're also in even more precarious times, because now it's not just the pandemic we're worried about. There's wars that are happening. There, people's lives are being affected day in, day out. How does Anheuser Busch not just look at communities, not just look at trends, but how do you think that they address the concerns that people have day in, day out about just life in general?
Yes, for me, it's very interesting, and I came back to this point that brands are so flexible in terms of they can be part of your day day by day. So for us, it's a work in progress journey, which we can see which brand, being true to themselves, because that's the most important part, can help in this specific parts of the day, or these specific topics or territories in which the consumers play and live. So when you find that sweet spot in which brand and consumer problem, start to be the same, or you can find a way to solve it, you start action.
Okay. Okay, one last question for you. And I don't want it to be the last question because I'm really enjoying our conversation and I hope we can continue this dialogue outside of this forum. I want to know what you're excited about. Like I feel like this year, even though there's so many precarious things happening and we're not sure how the world may look from one day to the next, we still got to think about the future, right? What are you excited about this year? Like, what do you think 2022 is going to bring you personally, as well as the job that you do at AB? What are you looking forward to?
This is very related with the company and the purpose that we, told to our people like a couple of weeks ago. This new purpose for ABI, that we're here for a future with more cheers. That relates directly with that I want this year and the years to come. So I'm in the right company right now, because this future with more cheers, can be different depending of the country that you are in. So for me, using the position that I have, or working in the things that I'm working right now, and trying to see how a future with more cheers could be for my consumer target, for my company here in this country, and for me, that's very exciting just to think about it. So being specific with me, I want to try to keep changing the lives of kids and teenagers in Colombia. Every little step is a step ahead on this very positive, diverse, inclusive world. So yeah.
Every step, every little moment absolutely does count. I know it's only 12:30 in the afternoon where I am here, and probably pretty early for you too. But if I had a beer in my hand right now, I'd say cheers to you, because I think that the job that you're doing is absolutely phenomenal. And, it's something that I would love to, as I mentioned, connect with you outside of this, so we can talk about how we could potentially align and bring this message of, cheers to everyone, both in our work communities, in the communities that our work services, and to the consumers who are often looking for something to give them a reprieve, if you will, from some of the challenges that we face in the world. So cheers to you, Juan. Thank you so much for everything that you do. And I look forward to connecting with you in the future.